Hi, everybody. It's me again, Charles Norman, Sports Solutions LLC. We are the creators of AthleticSOS. It is a software, absolutely no cost for you guys to use, and it is for high school athletes that are going to try to get an athletic scholarship. And what we do is we take your academic information, the sports you play, the level you believe you can play at the collegiate level, and then what we do is we show you all of your options and opportunities, everything from NCAA's Division I, II, 3, even though they don't give athletic scholarships, you can still see the schools you qualify for academically. And then we also show you NAIA schools, and we even show you junior colleges or community colleges, as some people call them. We've been doing this for quite a while now. And one of the things that when we created this, when I created Sports Solutions, the idea was start with the high schools, because that's where I kind of got into this with my daughter, trying to get her an athletic scholarship. And I realized after we got through it and got her the scholarship, how many times I almost messed up. And then our goal was to circle around and start with the 5 to 9-year-olds, then the 10 to 12-year-olds, and then high school was 13 and up. And so that's kind of the way we developed this. Now, it took a little bit longer to get some traction with AthleticSOS. One of the other things I found is you can come with all this cool software and technology, and we believe our software is the best there is out there for what we're trying to accomplish. But you can't just walk into an industry and think you're just going to get them to start using your stuff. There, you gotta work your way through things. And so we're okay with that. And so on top of that, I come from a government background, and then I waited until, the end of my career to start doing this. And I have learned business. And now I know government. I know how government works. I know how structures, I know how systems work. I know how difficult it is. Once you get in, you're good to go. But you have to work your way through there. And now I understand business so much better. And combining those together, I think we're going to be able to build a great network. And I've already started building some people around that. But that's not why I'm here today. So on this one, I've been doing a great series of videos. I think people are telling me they're pretty good. And we're going to talk about how your athlete, this is for the beginning parents, that 5 to 9 age group, how that your kid is probably an athletic genius. And I'm going to explain this to you. By the time I'm done, you're going to actually agree with me that is probably there. And so one of the things we've been able to do is we've been able to track which kind of kids, because in order to get to college, to play at the collegiate level, you're probably going to have to play at the varsity level at your high school, unless your sport is not covered at high schools. And there's quite a few sports that aren't covered at the high schools. They just don't have the capacity. They don't have the coaches. They don't have the training ability. And then they don't have enough people playing those sports to be able to make it worthwhile for them. So you don't see those at many high schools. But I'm going to talk about the sports you do see at high schools. There's three, I don't want to say caricatures. There's 3 avatars that I'm going to walk through. And then these are the kids that we see that are on the varsity team. And the first one I like to call the utility player. And this kid is the hustle kid, the kids that's first to practice, that when you're doing drills, pre-warm-up and all that, they're already there early. They touch every line. They don't cheat. They work out. They do what the coach asks for. They know all the plays. And when they're on the court, you can kind of put them anywhere. They're on the field, the court, whatever they're doing, you can put them anywhere. They take the game serious. They go and get some extra reps in. They're the ones that go home and get their parent. When they were younger kids, they wanted to play. They thought, their teammates are fooling around a lot and doing stuff. And they're like, come on, you guys, let's buckle up here and let's get this thing done. It's a great player. Now, a lot of times this player, while they'll be on the varsity team, and many of them start on the varsity team, they're kind of that glue player. They're the player that the coach just loves having on the team, loves having in the game, right? A lot of times, though, this kid maybe a little bit, they're not quite as big. They're not quite as fast or quick, but they understand angles. They understand rhythms of the game. They understand nuances. They can kind of read what's going on because they study the game. And this is a good player. And this player can get to the collegiate level. And they're a little bit off on the size, whatever is the height, the weight, whatever it needs to be for that sport. What is the prototype for that sport? They're just missing a little bit of it somewhere, somehow. But still a good player, great to have on your team, and can play at the next level. Now, the next kid, I call the DNA. This kid, when they walk in the room, when they walk on the field, the court, whatever the sport is, everybody there, every coach there is like, I want this player. But most of the time, this is the player that the coaches are coming to see, the college coaches, when they're looking for somebody to bring in and to recruit. This is the player they came to see. And they just have the DNA. Their parent, grandparent, somebody, mom, dad, somebody played at a high level. And so they just have the look, everything about them, and they can play. And that is the key piece. But their structure, their muscular ability, their height, their weight, it's just fit for whatever that sport is. And if they have any half of the workout and the dedication that utility player is, they overshadow that utility player. I mean, it's not even close. And if they only have a little teeny tiny bit of it, they're still going to get picked over that other player. It's just, you just see that when you walk in there, your eyes go towards that player. They just have it, and you can feel their confidence. And sometimes you'll hear the term "man amongst boys." You know, you'll watch people playing, and this kid is just, and their confidence is a high level. They're just were built to do this, right? In that sort of sense, in that way. That's the next player. That player is going to play at the next level, most likely. Somebody's going to pick them up. Usually this is the kid that can make the D1 squad at the collegiate level. They're looking for this kid, and they can fix, anything that's missing from this kid. If they can get that dedication, if they get the workouts, they get all that, this kid's going to be a good addition to any collegiate team. And they're usually going to go on the D1. And this is the kid that'll go 3-star, 4-star, 5-star kid. They just have something. And they're not lazy. It's not like that other player that I talked about, the utility player, is better fit, or this kid is lazy or anything like that. There's none of that going on. This kid knows the game, they understand the game, and they like the game. They love to play. And they just have that built-in thing. And then there's the next player. And I'm trying to think of a good saying for this kid. This is the kid let's call this kid the natural. And this kid frustrates the DNA kid, and it really frustrates the utility kid, because this kid can just play the game. They were born to play this sport, this game, whatever it is. And there's 34 different sports you can get an athletic scholarship. Now, some have more than others. If you play football versus bowling or archery, you're going to have more opportunities to play at the collegiate level. But this kid this sport that they're playing, they can walk in there, they can roll in, they can be a little overweight, look like they're out of shape, they eat wrong, the things that they're doing doesn't make sense. They might not even have the size, they don't have the physique as the DNA player. They work out, but that utility player, they hustle, they get everywhere they want to be. The natural player, they see the play before the play happens. They already know what's going to happen, or they can make it happen. They just have whatever it takes to play that game. It's just natural to them. I'm just going to call them the natural. And I talk about this a lot of times. And this is the one where people, when they hear me say, for your kid to be really good, they have to be the best version of themselves at their sport. This is kind of in that realm where they're just, if you can find that sport, of those 34 sports, I am convinced, without a shadow of a doubt, that there is a sport that every single kid can play where it fits who they are. They can go out there and naturally do it. Now, they got to work at it. They still got to practice. They still got to figure the game out. And usually, if it's an offensive, defensive type of sport, they're going to be really good at the offensive piece because they have a feel for the game. They know how to get where they need to get. They know what the goal is, and they make that happen for you. And then defensively, they usually one step ahead of everybody. They can see what the other person's trying to do, or what the team is trying to do, or what's happening around them, and they can fill in, and they're the ones that can break up everything. They just know the game. And coaches will come to see that DNA player, and they'll see the utility player, but they're a little bit afraid. It doesn't look like that kid something doesn't feel right originally, but they know this kid can play. And sometimes this is the kid that's underappreciated, overlooked, along with the utility player. But if you get that kid, you're like, wow, this came out of nowhere. This is the kid where everybody passes up because they don't fit that DNA profile, that look. They don't seem like they're putting a lot of effort in, but their results are, it's just there. You can see it. It's in their stats. It's in how they play. And here's the other thing about them. They could probably do a little bit more if they wanted to, but they don't need to. And they're confident in what they're doing, and they just get the job done. And if you find that player and you're smart enough as a coach to pick that player up, you will be happy the whole time, because they will always come through, because the game comes easy to them. It's natural to them, and they will work out. They will do and they'll figure some things out. And so those are sort of the three. And if anybody has any one of those three different players, the utility player, DN player, the natural, if any of them pick up the other pieces of those other two avatars, they've got it going on. You've got a great thing. So if you can get that kid motivated and get them moving, you got it going. And so that DNA player can probably play multiple sports. That's one of the good things about them. That utility player can play multiple positions, right? You can use them almost everywhere because they understand the game. They know what everybody's supposed to do, where they're supposed to be, how it works, what's there, because they have to study the game to keep up with the other two. And then the natural player is the one that is going to get you over the hump. They're the ones that get you that championship. They're the ones that wins that close game for you because they're going to see things that other people don't see. So those are our three avatars. And every single kid, I think, fits in one of those, especially with so many sports that are out there. But you guys know I like to go the extra mile on this thing. There's one other kid, and this is my favorite kid. This is the kid that will make the game bend to them. They're the ones that go out, and I think we're losing a lot of these kids for one reason. They don't go out and just play pickup. They don't just play for fun. They don't just go and fool around on the field. You ever go to a kid's practice? And when everybody's getting out there, the parents are letting them out, the coaches out there, they put everything where they need to be, and the kids are over there, they're just clowning around. They're throwing the ball around, they're kicking it all over the place, and they're running and yelling and pushing each other and all that kind of stuff. Those are the moments you want to let go. You got to let your kids get out and play and have fun because this is the special kid. This is the kid that's going to create a move. They're going to create another way of doing what the goal is. They're swinging the bat differently than everybody else. And in fact, it's the kid that when they first go out when they're little, they're doing something that's crazy, flipping the ball over their head, or they're doing something really weird. And you're going, cut it out. That's not how you do it. Stop. Everybody stop. You know, that sort of thing. And so, but that is what you want your kids to do. You want them to develop something nobody else even thought about. And for the natural, it's going to happen anyway if you let them get out there and do it because that's who they are. They're the ones that they want to do that. They want to get out there and they want to create something. They see something everybody else doesn't. And the DNA kid, they're going to want to do something. Instead of, let's say they're playing baseball or softball. Instead of hitting base hits or getting contact hitting, they want to hit home runs. And they can do it because they have the DNA to do it. They see the game. They feel the game. They're born to do that also. But we don't let our kids go out and have fun anymore. I'm at a park right now. I guarantee you, I'll come out here later on. There's no kids out here just hanging out playing. There's basketball courts, there's soccer fields, there's baseball diamonds. There's no kids will be out here. Not where when I was younger, and I don't want to do the old guy thing, but where I remember on Saturday, we would all have to do our chores in the morning. We would get up and we're not arguing with my parents at all. I got to go get this done. These are my chores. I got to get them done before I can go outside. So whoever got done first would get on their bike and ride to the next kid's house, right? And then they would ring the doorbell and they would wait. And if that kid was moving slow, you'd have to stay outside because the parents didn't let you in that early. Everybody's not up. But we would wait for them to get their stuff done. And then once they got their stuff done, we would go right to the next kid's house. And finally, we got 5 or 6 kids together, and then now we're off. We're going to the park. We're going to play in somebody's backyard. We're going to do something. You don't see kids being able to do that anymore. And this is where they develop that I'm going to do it this way. No adults around to tell me how I'm doing it wrong. And I'm going to develop my game based on my shape, my arm, my legs, my midsection, how I'm built. That is where it's going to come from. So if we're not having that anymore, from the way I see it, and parents can fix this easy, just let the kids go out. Now, I'm going to tell you guys a story. When my daughter was playing, I was coaching her in her junior high school years. I've told that story before. We used to have practice, right? We had a little basketball team. We used to have practice. So I would go, hey, I'm going to be here an hour early, you guys, if you want to come down if we were practicing outside. And they would come out. But I found out that one time one of the kids brought a friend of theirs with them, and the kids were out there playing, but I'm there, right? And I told them I was going to be there an hour early. Practice didn't start yet, but one of the kids got hurt. It wasn't one of my team, but it was somebody that came with them. And that parent was actually going to say that it was my responsibility that kid got hurt because I wasn't watching them. And I said, no, we haven't started practice yet. And I don't know if they went back to check on it, but they were going to come after me because their kid. But I go, what if your kid would have just came out here to play? Who would be responsible then? So I stopped doing that. I didn't come early. I didn't mention it. I told everybody they couldn't bring anybody extra when it's time to start practice. But the way people are now, maybe that isn't a way to do it. But if you take your kids up to the park and just go, hey, you guys, your kid can tell their friends, hey, we're going to be at the park at this time. You guys come on up and we're going to go do what we're going to do. If you guys can get that done. The other way to do it, though, is that when there is actual practice and you're under a NJB, AYSO, NBA Junior, Little League, whatever you guys are doing, if you're under those things, you guys can get there a little bit early. Let the kids clown around for a little bit. Let them have some fun. Let them do some things. If you're going to take your kids separately, they're going to a trainer, they're doing something like that, get them there a little bit early, and then actually encourage your kid. Let me see something you got that nobody else has, and let them start working on that on their own. They probably don't even think about it that way. And sometimes they'll just be, they have to develop something that makes them the best version of them. And then that will get them something that's special, right? So we want your kid to be special. Here's the other way to kind of accelerate this. And I talk about this a lot. There is somebody, because I think every kid is just built a little bit differently than everybody else. There is somebody that moves and is shaped and has the thought process as your kid that made it all the way to the pros, or at least they made it to the Olympics, or they made it to college. Try to see if you can find it. See if you and your kid can identify it. Go in your sport, go online, and just start looking up your sport. Look up all-star games, look up MVPs for the league, stuff like that, and see if you can find a group of kids, adult that plays like your kid, and start to pick up some of their stuff. Now, it could have been 5, 10, 15 years ago that this person played, and things have changed since then. But what they did to get there, I bet you your kid could incorporate that, do what they do also, and then listen to their coaches and everybody at that point. And then the other thing I would recommend for you guys to do is, once your kid hits junior high, they've picked a sport. And I always say, pick a fall sport, and then at the fall or winter sport, and then at the very least, pick a spring sport. And so now you have your kid with a dual things. If you can find a sport that they are good at, and that's something I'm working on right now. How do we do that? How do we make sure your kid can play everything from archery to wrestling, right, and everything in between there? If you go and look at AthleticSOS, I know if your kids are younger, you're not really looking for an athletic scholarship at this point, but if you go and act like you use the code down below, use the instructions, and you can go and look like you're going to register. You don't have to go all the way through the registration if you don't want to, but there's a list of sports there. Look at all of those sports. See if you can find somebody that you can just have your kid go out and do a weekend, just a beginning thing. Call up the group, the organization that's around you that has that sport, and see if they will offer you a, like a initial review, that they can come in and just find out about the sport. Do one training lesson or something, and see if your kid connects with it. Maybe they don't. Maybe that wasn't enough time for them to get it. But what you're looking for is where your kid, you kind of see their movements, things, they kind of get it, or they're interested in it. That's might be even better. And so that's what we're looking for. But I have an idea on how to fix that. So if anybody has any, wants to work with me on that, please contact me, info@athleticsos.com. And I'd love to discuss it with you. I kind of need some funding to do that, but I'm going to do it anyway at a smaller stage. But I'd love to stretch this out. And it's built into my software already. But anyway, so I don't want to get too far down that line. So these are the things we want. So remember, we've got the utility players. They can get to the collegiate level. They're usually the ones that end up playing NCAA Division II, Division III, NAIA, or they can get to a mid-major D1, depending if they're close enough to the physical stature that's needed to play that sport. They can get there. Your DNA kid, they're pretty much a shoo-in. They're going to get there anyway. If you can get them to have a little bit of focus on what they need to do and don't take for granted. One of the problems that happens with a lot of the DNA kids is they start off so far ahead of everybody else when they're young. They get all the special training, all of that, and then they take for granted that they're going to be that person when they hit high school and all the other kids catch up. And so sometimes they're not pushing themselves enough. So you got to make sure you keep pushing them. And usually if you have a DNA kid, that parent recognizes, the other coaches recognize it, and they'll stay on that kid. They'll usually get where they need to get to. And then the other one is the natural. That kid is the one that's eating a hot dog right before the game. Everybody's nervous. It's a playoff game. It's a championship game. And they're wondering why everybody's so bent out of shape. It's like, it's just a game. We're just going to go have some fun. And if you let that kid be who they are and don't try to change their swing or their shot or their putt or their whatever they're doing, if you don't overdo it, they will get the job done for you. Let them be, and they should usually make it too. And then finally, if you get that kid that will get out there and figure out, that brings something to the game nobody's ever seen, the way they do it, the way they approach the game is unique because they've had time to just fool around and play with how they want to do it. And if that kid is the natural kid and they have the DNA and they're willing to do the hard work, now you've got the kid that changes sports at the professional level. That's your superstar. Because they brought it all together in the one package. But you don't have to bring it all together in one package. And it's really important, in my opinion, that your kid tries to play sports, because I talk about this all the time. Sports, even if you decide you can't do all this stuff, you're not going to do everything I just talked about, and your kid is out there the soccer field and the ball's coming straight at them and they kick and miss the whole ball and it goes right past them, they turn and watch it go. Even if you have that kid, there is a sport, in my opinion, that kid would be really, really good at. Even if your kid's super calm, they don't really have that motor or whatever everybody always talks about. But imagine if they're doing archery. Imagine if they're doing shooting. Imagine if they're doing one of those, and they can they're very calm. They're very leveled out, and then they can take that deep breath that you need, that half a second breath before they execute whatever the skill is. That kid will be the best at that. And people miss out on stuff like this because they think of sports as this, you've got to be this athlete. And my kid just doesn't have it. And sometimes kids are just slow to warm up. Sometimes kids are shy. Sometimes kids, there's too much hollering. There's too much structure with that. They don't want to deal with all of that. Find a sport that fits who your kid is, and your kid will shine. I promise you. And then you get to go and be around good people for the most part. And you get to go and have access, and you're going to visit places, and you're getting inside information, and you're meeting all these other people that want to be around you, and they're bringing all these resources to you. And that is going to be the future for your kids' lives. I am telling everybody, the future is not doing things the way they were done before. There's no going to school, getting good grades, making sure you get to the right college, then you'll get the right job, and then you'll get paid a lot of money, and you'll buy your house and your car and have your family. That world's over. You've got to be multifaceted, and you've got to have some assets by the time you get to you're coming out of high school. You got to know some people. By the time you get to college, you got to build up even more assets. And people are assets. So skills are assets. The access, you've seen things that regular kids that are just hanging around and not really doing a lot, that you're seeing things as an athlete that they don't get to see because you're going a lot of different places. You're going to be places anyway. I don't want to get too far down that road because I know you guys tell me I say that every time I'm doing this. But that is why youth sports is so important. And there's no other activity your kid's going to do where someone is physically trying to defeat them, to stop them, prevent them, or defeat them or beat them. There's nothing else like that. And that is what builds you up and gives you that ability to make it through tough times in life. That somebody was trying to defeat you physically. So, you can do all the other stuff. Your kid can have all these other skills. That's why I would say it's athlete but their ability to play a sport, to endure out there, to get better. And if you can get them in one of those avatar type, one of those things, one of those pieces, utility, DNA, or they're just a natural at it, if you can find that for them, you will give them a head start on everything. And remember, these are the things that people are going to be looking for in the future, for being compensated for their abilities. And I put it on my shirt. I made this myself. It's curiosity, imagination, it's daydreaming, and then it's effort. That's it. Those are the keys to the future for your kid. And if you get that for them, you guys are going to make it. Anyway, that's it for this one. I hope this resonates with some of you guys. And again, if you can use the software if you have a kid going into high school or they're already there, the school year's getting ready to get started. It doesn't cost any money to use the software. It's called AthleticSOS. If you look down below, I'll give you a code. I'll give you instructions for how to use the code. And there's a link to a brief video that kind of shows you what it does. It's a 1-minute video. Please feel free to watch it. And if anybody's out there that wants to work with me on getting these kids early, the ability to try out a lot of these different sports, I have an idea for how to pull that off. And contact me at info@athleticsos.com. All right, guys. Appreciate you. And we'll talk again next week. We'll start talking a little bit more as we get closer to high school, the things you're going to have to do, how to get prepared. I want to talk a little bit more about the changes at the collegiate level. A lot of people are confused about what just happened with the changes that are coming up for this year. How do you prepare for that? How do you get yourself in a position? What are some of the things you got to look out for now with all these changes? And so we'll talk about that as we move forward. But I'm really excited. I think the future is very bright. I think if your kid plays sport, they're going to have more options than some of the kids that don't play. And if we can get them to high school and get them on varsity, I think we got an opportunity to get them so that they can, go to school and meet some other people and also not have all that debt when they come out. So all these things are just positives to me. All right. Talk to you guys next week. Bye.